Oh boy, we're gonna touch Forspoken now. The game that was pretty hyped by almost everyone, but the game that was almost universally hated by everyone as well when it was eventually released. But is it actually that bad? And how game actually looks like just a little bit after the hype is already died down and all the reviews of big guys are already out. And in this video we're going to be taking a look at Forspoken a bit after of its release and whether it is worth it to buy right now or not. So let's just discuss that. And as always, in every single one of my videos, I'm going to be giving you the answer right away to not waste your time. And the answer to whether Forspoken is worth it or not is, well, to be fair, kinda yes, but in a very specific cases. You see, this is not a great game. This game has a huge issues that can be turned off for the most of people. But this game has some great elements which makes it worth it, but only on a very deep discounts. So if you're finding this game or 60, 70, or 75 or 80% off, then yes, it's worth a shot. But anything above that, then no. You're not gonna be losing a lot if you're not gonna pay the full price for this game. But let's get into details. Oh, and by the way, our Steam Curator page is already up and running, so if you want to see all of my reviews, videos, and a little bit of text review right there on Steam before you're gonna buy anything, just go and follow us there on Steam so that you will not miss my reviews when you are buying the games. Now back to the video. So what even is Forspoken? Forspoken is an action-adventure game with some RPG elements. You're playing as Frey, and you're thrown into this weird adventure into the fantasy world when you will be transported there from, well, modern-day New York. And your goal is to find out what is happening with this fantasy world and be the savior of them all. And the story-wise, and they're gonna be very mild spoilers, just explaining overall arc of the story, where you won't be losing a lot if I'm gonna tell you that. Story-wise, this world is governed by 4 entities, or like 4 sorceresses if you want, called Tantas. These are 4 wise women that governed everything with justice and a strong hand. But for some reason, they went crazy and the world has gone to crap. And each of the Tantas control its own element of magic. So it can be fire, it can be water, it can be air, or in this case electricity, or it can be earth. And your kind of like goal is to confront these Tantas and, well, take their power as your own to, well, rid the world of them and of the craziness that they are causing. Or rather, this is the thing that you think that you're doing. And of course, there's something else going on and there are overall twists and things like that. Yes, so yeah, just know that there are some twists. And first, let me cover the bad things of the game. The things that you'll be hearing from every review and things like that. And let's just get rid of it as quickly as possible. And the worst thing of the game is the story. Story and writing is absolutely awful. I don't know who thought that story, writing, and pacing of everything was a good idea, but yeah, it's absolutely awful. And the worst offender of them all is the main character, Frey. I don't know who thought that she would be likable, but she is absolutely not a likable person. She is just likable enough to be tolerable. That's it. She is not a good person. She is very selfish, and all the explanation about the things that she is doing is because the life has been very harsh to her and she has gone through a lot and nobody knows her what she is. I don't know, it feels like the writer was a teenager in her or his mid-teens. Every time she is the one who can solve the situation, she tries to run away and feels like she is the real victim here because she didn't want to be here. She doesn't want anything to happen like that, and now all she can do is just leave everything as is. And yeah, I absolutely hated her as a character. Speaking of characters, and to be fair, that's not a gripe for me, it's just an artistic choice. Feels like everything was being made for the female audiences in this game, even though it was not marketed as such. And let me explain what do I mean. Everything in this game is very colorful and beautiful, to be fair. All the gameplay elements are kind of like women-centric because all the gear that you're getting are incredibly beautiful pieces of apparel. They feel like a very high-end designers are making them. They're very beautiful. And this entire world is governed by women, and yeah, there are very little amount of men in this game actually. And yeah, I can only think of one character in the entire game that is a man that has any type of, well, influence on anything. Only single man, one. While everything else, well, everyone else is a woman. I don't have any gripe about this, to be fair, and I really don't care. Issues with this game was not its cast, it was the writing in itself. And yeah, it is bad. The dialogue is cringy and the game just forces you, just tries to force you to like the Frey. With the first dialogues being like, oh Frey, you have so much potential and you're wasting it. You can be such a great person, but you are wasting it by being a petty criminal and things like that. And yeah, I absolutely hated that. And the second thing that I didn't like ties to the story is how story is stopping you from actually enjoying the game. And let me explain what do I mean by that. In a game, you have 4 sets of powers corresponding to each element, and you are unlocking as you progress through the game. So you have your first in the very beginning of the game, then you get your second, your third, and then your fourth. And you see you need all the elements because everything is resistant or vulnerable to a certain element. So you need all of them. And do you know what happens when you get the fourth element? You immediately is taken into the final boss battle. Yes. The final big bad. Immediately, you literally have only one small battle where you can use this fourth element. One. And you actually need this fourth element in a final battle, which is a BS. But okay, let's move to the other things. The next thing that I didn't like was the interface itself. Everything has to be an unskippable cutscene and a menu element popping up that you cannot move. Every time your character talks in the dialogue scenes, you cannot move, even though when you're talking to yourself, you cannot move. You have to awkwardly wait and rotate your camera while your character is standing and looking into nothingness and talking about something. And the menus are weird, like surprisingly weird to navigate through. But to be fair, I got used to it. But enough talking about bad things, we're gonna be covering this plenty enough. But let's talk about the good things. And the best things in the game are combat and the movement system. Yes, it's absolutely beautiful. This is the thing that kept me returning to the game over and over and over again. The combat is absolutely stunning. And let me explain how it works. You have your main 2 attacks. One is your attack magic and one is your support magic. You don't have mana or any type of indicators, but you have cooldowns for your magic. Attack magic doesn't have any cooldowns, so you have your main attack, which is your light attack, or your heavy attack, which you can choose from one of 3 for each element. And every single one of them is completely different and have completely different effects. Like for an earth magic, which is your first magic, like one attack can be your charge rock attack that can throw a larger and larger boulder, or you can just transform into a freaking Gatling gun and just shoot the small rocks like non-stop. And the combat is fluid and fast. It's absolutely beautiful with all the particles and all the effects and all the pretty good cues from enemy attacks. It's absolutely beautiful. And with the support magic, you can actually use different attacks like laying down mines or summoning different companions or even weapons, inflicting different types of effect or damage on enemies, and etc, etc. The roster is pretty large for each element, and what you can do is actually change everything on the fly. Like for example on the PC, when you press and hold E, you have your radial menu and you can switch your attack with your main attack, or when you press Q, the time slows down, or you can actually choose in the menu to completely make it stop, and you can switch to your different support attacks, or you can switch completely to a different element, and it's pretty fluid and feels pretty great. And enemy variety poses quite different challenges as well. The base enemies, kind of like zombies, they're pretty easy to take care of, but they are attacked usually in pretty large numbers, which also forces you to use your movement system or parkour. And that's where the second part of the game shines. You have a parkour system which ties to your stamina gauge. With the parkour system, you're transforming into a speedster and you're moving into very high speeds and vaulting over all the obstacles or even enemies. And you're dodging different attacks using this parkour as well, which is absolutely beautiful and makes it very acrobatic and beautiful combat. When you progress, you also unlock a different additional type of movements which are not as used as your parkour, but it's useful as well. Like for example, when you unlock your fire magic, you unlock a grappling hook ability, allowing you to grapple into different ledges and different points in the world and allow you to boost you in air, or even attract to an enemy or attract enemy to yourself. With the water magic, you unlock the ability to run on water, even though you don't have a lot of bodies of water, well, you will need that. And an open world is pretty large, divided into 4 more or less distinct territories for each element. Like for a fire tanta, you have your desert. For a water tanta, you have your forests and hills, and for example, for your air tanta, you have your large open fields and hills. And to be fair, world looks absolutely beautiful and stunning. And you have a lot of things to do in the world. And it's usually dotted with different treasures, different powerful enemies, or even different settlements where you need to complete different challenges, or even labyrinths where you battle against more powerful enemies. And everything is shown on the map, and everything just tells you what you will unlock by completing this certain objective. It can be a stat increase, it can be equipment, and for equipment you have your cloaks and your necklaces. That's all that you have. It can be different crafting resources, even though crafting is pretty rudimentary, and there are a bunch of different things. But how it works all together? Well, to be fair, I just tried to go through the campaign alone, and it took me around 12 to 14 hours to complete it, well, with very little distractions on the side. I only completed like a few labyrinths, and at the end of the main campaign I had only like 3 cloaks and few necklaces. That's all that I had. That means that I didn't unlock remotely everything and remotely nothing powerful enough. And to be fair, I was able to complete the game without actually needing anything from an open world. So practically open world is just for your fun, and to be fair, this is the best part of the game. But does it feel great? Well, when you're in open world and when you're doing whatever just you want to do, it feels great, but nothing has any purpose. In the main quest, when you're going towards the Tantas to battle them or for any other reason, all that you are doing is just getting there. That's it. And your world is pretty large, and Tantas are usually very far from the hub city, and you just need to take this large road, which is around 3 to 5 kilometers maybe in a distance. And yes, you are crossing a bunch of different territories, and you are meeting different type of obstacles on the road, but nothing, well, insane, nothing intense. And obstacles usually are just enemy encounters. And that's practically all that you do. You just go there and get to a Tantas, have some things going on, like maybe battle, maybe some cutscenes, and that's it. Don't get me wrong, story is not all bad. Game has very creative scenes as well. Like for example, I like the New York scene, which is kind of like minor spoiler that you will be returning to New York, and it's pretty good. But everything else is very average. Dialogue is very cringy, especially the communication with your cuff or vimbrace, which is like a bracelet that is constantly talking to you. And yeah, at first it's very cringy, but the most cringe is actually in the beginning of the game. Later stages, it's not as cringy, but story is not getting better, which is a huge pity. The game could be much better, but it feels like it was made by teenagers or the people who have never made any games. But anything can be forgiven for the correct price. So how much game will cost you? And well, spoiler alert, it's not good. Game is available on Steam for a base price of $69.99 for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 countries, and the lowest it has ever gone at the moment of the recording was $59.99. But so, is it worth it? Are you kidding me? $70 game? No, it's not even close. This is the 12-hour game for the main campaign, and maybe you can stretch it all the way up to 50 hours if you will be doing everything. And I'm talking about absolutely everything, even though you don't need to do everything. And even if it did not have that bad of a story, it would still not be worth $70. Not even close to that. So when you should buy this game? Well, when it will go below $20, then yes. Then I would say, okay, it's worth $20. The combat and traversing mechanics is fun enough to keep you busy and keep you entertained, even if you will not care about the story. Plus, I played it on a PC, and you're probably interested in the performance. Performance was not great, but it was okay enough. I have AMD graphics, which this game is actually more optimized towards, and on 6950 XT, 16GB card, this game was running at around 50 to 60 FPS on an ultra graphics. Granted, by lowering some graphics with the turning on of our FSR and just changing some graphical settings, yes, this game was running more or less smoothly, and yes, it is much better compared to what it was in the beginning. But I have to also say that this game is graphically intense and pretty beautiful as well. And I'm pretty sure as the time will progress, it will be more optimized. But the thing that cannot be optimized is its story. So yeah, this have to be a biggest turnout. So would I recommend buying this game? When the game will be somewhere lower than $20, whether it's on a consoles or on a PC, yes, below $20, it's an enjoyable enough experience to keep you busy for a night or two. Yes, it's pretty good. If it will be for $10, even better. But $70? No, don't even think about it. just skip it and wait until the sale will be there. So this will be it for today. Thanks for being here with me. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. See ya.